In this edition of Union News, will junior doctors strike in March? The latest reaction to Tory anti-strike legislation, increasing industrial unrest expected in 2023, and beware anti-union propaganda from the reactionary media.
Junior doctors in England to go on 72-hour strike in March if industrial action vote is successful. The British Medical Association, BMA, has announced that junior doctors in England will go on strike for 72 hours in March if a ballot for industrial action is successful. The ballot for the strike will begin on Monday, but the BMA has urged the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, to meet with doctors and negotiate a solution in order to avoid the strike. The BMA claims that successive governments have overseen 15 years of real terms pay cuts for junior doctors in England, resulting in a 26.1% decline in pay since 2008 to 2009. The union has also accused the government of ignoring evidence and treating the public as fools, by claiming that the NHS has all the resources it needs, while also ignoring calls to meet and negotiate.
UK government accused of attacking unions and workers' rights with new strike legislation. The UK government has announced new legislation to minimise disruption during strikes, including setting minimum safety levels for fire, ambulance, and rail services. RMT General Secretary Mick Lynch has accused the government of trying to close down unions and said the proposed legislation threatens to dismiss union members who refuse to work. Unions could also be sued for failing to provide minimum levels of service. What this is a symbol of is that the government are losing the argument, Mick Lynch told BBC Breakfast. They've lost the argument on austerity and pay and the state of our national public services. And instead, they want to close that argument down by closing down the unions and stopping us from campaigning against poverty. Mr. Lynch said the bill, which will be introduced in Parliament in the coming weeks, amounts to a threat to sack union members if they refuse to go to work. They are going to conscript our members, he said.
Increasing industrial unrest expected in 2023. It seems that 2023 may bring with it an increase in industrial action as more and more workers across various industries demand higher pay and improved working conditions. Many of these workers argue that at the very least, their pay should increase at the same rate as inflation to ensure they can maintain their standard of living. The push for higher pay comes as many workers struggle to make ends meet, with some taking on additional jobs or relying on food and clothing banks. While Tory MPs claim there is no money to fund pay increases, they are perceived as being out of touch as they are well paid with high salaries, expenses, and allowances. This has led to the question that if politicians can have good wages and working conditions, why can't ordinary workers?
Don't fall for media's lies. Strikes a sign of workers' frustration, not greed. As more strikes are called, some media outlets may try to portray striking workers as greedy or selfish, and may personally attack union leaders. It's important to remember that nobody goes on strike for fun, but rather as a measure of last resort when their concerns are not being heard. The reactionary media, the likes of the Express and Mail, may try to divide and conquer, but it's important to remember that strikes are a sign of frustration, and that workers are at their wits' end. In December, nurses in Northern Ireland even picketed in sub-zero temperatures, demonstrating the strength of their feelings and the seriousness of the issues they are fighting for. Union News brings you news of the UK union and labour movement. We can't rely on the UK media to give unbiased accounts on these issues. Please support Union News by sharing links and following us on streaming platforms such as Spotify, Amazon Music and YouTube. Remember also to support pro-union news outlets, such as Workers' Magazine and The Morning Star. Thanks for your support in building the counter media. If you have news to share, please get in touch. The music in Union News is by Tim Bragg. Tim is a multi-instrumentalist and singer-songwriter. You can hear his songs on YouTube and streaming services.